What's up, SE Nation? Welcome back to another AWS video. Welcome to the journey as I'm learning. I've been trying to cram too much information in one video for some reason. I guess that's how they have it in Cloud Guru, and I don't know. I want to spread it out a little bit more. So today I'm talking about EBS, which is Elastic Block Storage. But the way I see it, again, going back to my trusty whiteboard. Every time you launch an EC2 instance, so you have a VM running, there usually is a small storage attached where you can run like the operating system. You have some information stored on here. This is EBS. This is like a volume storage. It's called the default volume that's attached to this VM. If you turn on a computer, any computer, usually have a hard drive running on it. That's the hard drive that's running on it. But there are some requirements where sometimes you have to have like other file systems that are connected, so more storage. Like if you're in a home lab, you have your NAS, true NAS or Synology network attached storage. That'll be one of them. But when you're talking about AWS, we're also talking about being used for actual applications like web servers or for analysis and just to save information for databases and all. Well, not databases, but to save information. And one of the things I want to talk about before we actually start talking about this, because in AWS and the courses, they kind of differentiate a lot about this, which is IOPS, which stands for input and output. I don't know what the PS stands for. Oh, let me pause while I look that up for a second. Okay, so input, output, and that's a PUT. Operations, so I'm just going to write per second. Per second here. And throughput. That's another thing they talk about. They say like, hey, this type of hard drive is optimized for throughput, whereas this type of hard drive is optimized for IOPS, input, output, reading. And the way we differentiate those, I guess the way they differentiate those, is throughput. It's bytes per second, it's bits per second. So if you talk about your Ethernet jack on your laptop, it's 1 gig or 10 gig per second. That's throughput. Whereas reading is how many actual operations you can do, how many disk reads you can do per second, how many disk writes you can do per second. So it's a different way of measurement, and they have different types of storage for these things. Now, for EBS specifically, which is Elastic Block Storage, it's like what I was talking about earlier with the VM here, and you have the storage. This is called the volume. And once you attach something to an EC2 instance, it becomes like a hard drive, like an external hard drive or internal hard drive, whatever it is that you want to use it for. And the same way you have like those big old hard drives, the hard drives and the small SSDs, the solid state drives, they each have their own purposes. And I think AWS has amazing documentation. So we're going to just look at the documentation. I don't need to write anything. So you see here they have SSD and hard drive. You have SSD here. Let me zoom in a little bit. SSD and hard drive, and they actually classified. Yeah, you can see the table here. For SSDs, you have general purpose SSDs. General purpose could be used for anything. If you don't have any requirements in mind, a general purpose SSD would suffice, it seems like. And you have the different types, which is called GP2 and GP3. I didn't see any information about a previous generation called GP1, but maybe they don't have that. So these are high durability. You can see it's 99.8 to 99.9% availability or durability. And they're good for the following. I mean, I'll leave a link to this in the blog that I will write for this specific video. And my computer is refusing to work. It's always lovely to have technical difficulties, but that's the time that I have. So volume size could be between 1 gigabit and 16 terabytes. And then you have provision for IOPS. That means we're gonna be doing a lot of reading and writing into the disk. And you have IO2 and IO1. These are the main ones. And you can have 64,000 input and output operations. We're using these types of drives. And if you scroll down a little bit, they can also talk about the hard drives. Now, the hard drives seem to be more focused on the throughput. And they're type ST1 and SC1. I don't know what these stand for. I guess I should look at them, but it doesn't really matter. These are used for like big data warehousing, where you just dump a lot of information, where you may or may not actually read them at some point. So all this information, again, it's docs.amazon.com. You can search here. They have a lot of, like, I'm actually looking at this more than I'm looking at Cloud Guru right now, especially when I'm trying to create these videos. So there's all that. Again, if you want to just take the course, take Cloud Guru. I'm enjoying it. Again, not affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form. I'm just enjoying their videos, and they're pointing me in these directions. So that's it for the actual volumes. But then there's a couple things they want to talk about, which are, one, it's snapshots. So when you create an EC2 instance, you can create an EC2 instance that it will have its default drive. You can create it as encrypted or non-encrypted. When you're doing snapshots, what you're basically doing is you're trying to back up your data, and you can back it up to a different region. And if you created a EC2 instance without an encrypted volume, and then you decide, you know what, I do want to encrypt it, you can do that through creating snapshots. So snapshots are basically backups at a point in time. And when you create a snapshot, well, again, I'll go back to the documentation. So the first time you create a snapshot of a volume, you're basically creating the snapshot of the entire thing, and then it's incremental. And this is the diagram that I like. Again, I'm not drawing anything because everything's on the AWS documentation. So if you think about, you have volume A right here. Yeah, right here. You already have 10 gigabits of data inside of it. So you take a snapshot. It will take a snapshot of the 10 gigs of data. By the way, the volume has space for 16 gigabits, but the snapshot only took 10 gigabits because that's the data available. And it takes some time for the first snapshot to take place. But then, as time goes along, some things have changed. You're still using 10 gigs of data, but the first 6 have been stable, the other 4 have changed. So when you take a snapshot, you don't have to take a snapshot again of the 10 gigs of data. You can reference the 6 gigs that was already there, and whatever changed, that's the snapshot that you take. So snap B is you're referencing, and then you're backing up, or you're taking a snapshot of that 4 gigs of information. Again, as time passes, we're going through the timeline right here. You have an additional 2 gigs of data has been added in red here. So if you see snapshot A has the entire first 10 gig, so nothing's changed. This part hasn't changed, the 4 gigs that's in yellow hasn't changed. We just added 2 gigs of data. So the reference here, the snapshot C is referencing the 6 gigs from the A, the 4 gigs from the B, and it's only actually taking a snapshot of the 2 gigs that it just took from this last one. And they have more examples if you want, but from what I understand from the videos, it seems that it's important to understand snapshots, and it's actually pretty useful to know this. And like if you want to back up your information, because you always want to back it up. If you want to store it in different regions for disaster recovery, that's also useful. And then the last topic I'm covering today is about the EC2 hibernation. Now, when you're looking at EC2s in the AWS console, you have the options to, like, some operations to run on the actual VM or the EC2 instance, which are to stop, start, reboot, terminate, and hibernate. Reboot is basically stopping and then starting, so it's two operations in one. When you stop the EC2 instance, that means the information that you have stored in the RAM, it's gone. It's similar to rebooting your computer. So you lose a lot of information. And when you terminate it, you're basically chucking the whole VM, right? You're just deleting the VM, you're losing all the information altogether. Anything that's stored locally is gone. So with hibernation, what's happening is it's taking the information that's in the RAM and it's storing it in an EBS, in the root volume. So when you restart, you can just restart faster. You can just copy the information back into the RAM and just keep going, saving you time. Because if people probably have seen this, when you start an EC2 instance, it takes a while. So, and there's a lot more information about storage, which I'm going to leave to another video. I don't want to cram a lot of information in one video. So that's it for today. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to share, like, and subscribe. I appreciate you being here and listening to this, because it's helping me, as hopefully it's helping you as well. If it does, please make sure to like. That's pretty much it. Get back to work. Peace.